Those of you who have been following my channel for a while, and particularly the saga surrounding the Dalbarton Zuidland affairs, will know that in my last recording on the subject, I announced that Brian Dalton was either in the process or had already applied for leave to appeal the court's decision on his cases that were dismissed, or his case that was dismissed at the time. I think that was the second court case. At the time, I couldn't discuss what was in the documentation because it was all sub judice. So I remember I discussed what wasn't in it, and that was a claim that PayUp had loaned Pelanicol a huge sum of money in the seven figures to buy the farm Dalbarton, which the courts eventually threw out because there was no proof of it. He could not prove that PayUp had loaned that money to them. Anyway, cut a long story short, Brian eventually did go ahead. He went ahead and he applied for leave to appeal the judgment, and that has now been thrown out of court. In other words, he was denied leave to appeal the judgment. So I got hold of Rodney recently. Now, the judgment was handed down a little while ago already, but due to work constraints and everything else, I haven't been able to conduct this interview. But 2 days ago, I got hold of Rodney Bartman, and I managed to ask him a few questions regarding the court cases and where that leaves the farm Delbarton and Zuidland now. But a little spoiler alert, it's good news. Here's the interview with Rodney. It's not very long because I'm on a free version of Zoom and it only gives you 45 minutes, and I also had load shedding basically at the same time that the Zoom meeting would have come to an end anyway. So we had to keep it pretty tight. I might follow up with another interview with Rodney Bartman, but we'll see how that goes in the future. Here's the interview with Rodney. Rodney, I decided to bring you back today onto the channel because, well, you haven't been on the channel for quite a while, and I wanted you to brief the audience on the latest developments on the farm Dalbarton, or better known as SanDoring these days. But we're going to get into that in a moment. We're going to have to keep this short and sweet because I have load shedding in less than an hour. But welcome back to the channel, and I look forward to getting some answers to the few questions I have for you tonight.
No, well, thank you very much, Dean, and yeah, thanks to South Africa for the load shedding, eh? It makes us have to jump through hoops sometimes.
Absolutely. So I think let's dive right into it. For the benefit of my newer subscribers, can you give us just a brief history on how Zuidland and Delbarton came into being?
Okay. So initially, it's a long story, so I'm going to shorten it as much as possible. But, with all the issues happening in the country, we were looking for a different way of finding ourselves self-determination, or a way that we could operate outside the current government that was just pulling us down, whether it be BEE or whether it be financially, the rand, dollar, etc., etc. And so we decided to create Zuidland as a virtual nation initially, and that's because we had this currency system PayUp, which was a great system, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And it's the reason why I got involved with Brian in the first place, was that I could see then we could put ourselves away financially and economically away from the current situation. So that was the greatest draw card of what we were actually doing. In this process, we then decided, well, let's find a place that we could actually get the people who, like us, wanted to get out of the cities and the issues and the hijackings and everything else, and find a place where we could actually put our roots down and start early in order to get ourselves prepared for what we all know is coming somewhere along the line. Anarchy, Escalation falling over totally, no food on the shelves, etc. So we found a farm. We then got a shelf company, and we asked everybody if they wanted to buy into the farm, and that those shares that they bought in would then allow them to have a usage of a portion of the farm. And yeah, that's how we started. And so we've been here now for over 4 years, going well. We've got road infrastructure in, we've got water infrastructure in, and we would have had about probably 100 houses already, but we've got about 25 now, and that's, I'm sure we're going to get into some of the issues.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
pretty.
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize there were so many.
Yeah, look, it's getting busy, eh? And people are actually they're actually quite desperate out there, and they a lot of people even moved here, even with the issues that was going on the farm, and with Brian trying to liquidate it and his cohorts, let's call them, trying to liquidate the farm. People still bought in because they still believed that it was going to happen, and they still believed in the right to self-determination under Article 235 of the Constitution. So yeah, we were one of the first, I think, to start that, actually standing by it, buying something, and actually being on the land, creating already,
Yeah.
building our houses under self-determination. Yeah.
Okay. So now you've gone and you've bought the farm, and life is good. Things start going well on the farm. At what point, how and when did things start to go sour?
Well, we we got we bought the farm in 2019, August, somewhere around there. I moved December 2019. And then we were busy with the road infrastructure and that, and COVID hit us in March, right in the midst of finishing off on the road. So that created a whole discord of where the services for the road infrastructure was supposed to be given right in that time frame,
Yeah.
which was the same time frame that the guys were paying for their share certificate. That obviously got delayed for 6 months, and then we still had to finish the roads, etc. In that period of time, there were a few individuals who had moved onto the farm where everybody was camping here, waiting to get onto their portions. Obviously, all of that's been delayed now because of COVID. You couldn't build anything, you couldn't really move much. And some people seem to be very good at sowing discord and just plain causing trouble. I mean, all they did was had their tent with beers and invited people in and spread stories and created issues. And it started way back then. And yeah, they're still here and they're still creating the same issues. So, but that will sort out. I was going to Kleinfontein. Um, if you read back in Kleinfontein with what happened to them 13 years ago, whatever, it's exactly the same that's happening here. It's almost to the T. And I think if you look at most organizations, it goes through the same. Our people have a problem with being able to actually work together. Yeah.
No, sure. So obviously this led to differences between you and Brian at the time, and these differences eventually escalated to a point where it ended up with the two of you in court. Can you give us a brief rundown of what the claims were on both sides and what the outcome was of that first court case?
Yeah, look, it wasn't that there was issues between us. At that stage, what happened was the same family, the Cooks, they were running to lawyers trying to say that they didn't buy shares, they bought a title deed, and that, I mean, right from the start, you had to pay for a share certificate that was on the website when you bought in. So it's just, it was just crazy. And so they had created so much unhappiness. They had gone onto social media. They were bad-mouthing the farm everywhere. It started slowing everybody down from wanting to come in, which obviously makes financials a little bit more difficult. And I think Brian decided to get out. And if you look at the history now, you can see he actually went and got a shelf company in November 2020. He became a director of that shelf company on January the 14th, 2021, and he resigned on January the 25th of 2021. So he had planned to get out. He had told me as much as he was going to leave the farm and all those type of things, and I thought, okay, well, so be it. If you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen.
Yeah, sure.
And and that was all fine, and you can see that in the emails going backwards and forwards. What we found out though is I brought a bookkeeper in then to do the financials, because Brian was obviously running the pay app system and doing the
Yes,
financials,
yes,
and we only found then that he hadn't really done any financials as he had indicated he was. And so I got Lindy in, who was the bookkeeper, and she went through it. And then we found some things that we weren't too happy with, some irregularities. And that's when it actually blew up out of control. But let me backstep now to about January the 20th. Just before Brian resigned, he then brought me a document, a loan agreement for PayApp for 3 million. That he had said that had been paid in to pay off the farm.
oh yes, the big loan
That was
agreement.
never the case. Yeah, our agreement was that if any funding was needed to be put in, he and I would actually fund the difference. Because we obviously had time. We didn't have to do it right there and then. As people bought in, it would just pay itself back if it
Sure.
was necessary.
Yeah.
So in this process, obviously, the wheels started falling off. I refused to obviously sign a loan agreement that I didn't agree with. And he then decided to try to take it to court to force it through and get himself paid 3 million rand.
Okay.
We got auditors in, and they proved that there wasn't a necessity to have a 3 million rand loan. And B, there was no transactions. Your bank statements don't really lie. They tell you where the money's
Sure.
coming in or going out.
Yeah, that's one issue that doesn't
and
lie.
so that's yeah. So that's what the issues boiled down to. And I stood up and we know, well, that's not going to happen. There's no way I'm going to allow the farm to be liquidated or sunk on somebody who's greedy, trying to get rich quickly because it didn't work out like he wanted it to work out.
Okay.
And he decided, well, miss the people, then he'll just set it up. And this is actually what happened. If I look at it now, he actually went about setting up this whole process from about October, November, when the issues with the cooks and that had happened.
Yes.
Where I put my foot down and said to him, "You had promised that we're going to do pay up in a community banking system. When is the community going to pay to be getting shares and all those type of things?" And I think he then started planning his exit. And I think he had planned that by doing that loan agreement that he had hoped I would sign it. He would then demand the payment. When the farmer couldn't pay it, he would liquidate it. So he had actually set it up that he was going to throw me under the bus.
That must have taken quite a bit of thought. Thought and planning.
Yeah, well, it did. As you can see, if you go and open a company in November, 2 or 3 months prior, you go buy properties in Veldrift and the likes, to which you've now built houses on. And we'll get into that later, to where did you get the funds from. But that means you've actually been strategizing around this for a while.
Sure.
And in order to fill in his own nest, So,
yeah.
But I'm a person who, and you can go look at my track record. I was a CEO for 22 years of various companies. And I'm a dead straight down the line guy. I don't crook. I don't bend the rules. I don't, do those type of things. And
Sure.
And I stand up for what's right. It doesn't matter what it normally costs me. I'll stand up for what's right because, I won't do anything underhanded that I've got to then end up with pie on my face. So when I took him on about it and to protect the people and the investors, because I'm not going to be the one who had got people to buy into the dream of getting self-determination. Look, we all got to sacrifice in order to get somewhere. You just can't get self-determination by, let me just join the board and put a little bit of a membership fee in, and then I get self-determination.
Absolutely. Everything comes at a price.
Everything comes at a price. And so I wasn't going to let those people down. And so I've fought hard. It's taken 2 or 3 years now, hard legal battles, of which I've had to pay a large amount out of my own pocket in order to defend the organization.
Yes.
And people get it wrong. They go, well, why are we involved in a Brian and Rodney fight? Well, it's not. It's a Brian against the organization fight. It's a do you want self-determination or don't you want self-determination? If you do, and do you want to stand up for what's right or do you want to stand up for what's wrong? Now, you can point it to say that it's a Brian and Rodney thing, but it's not. It's an organization against Brian trying to take on the organization. That's what it's about.
Yes, it just happens that you're the last remaining representative of the organization.
Correct. Yeah, and prepared to stand up and take the fight. You know, the easiest thing for me, Dean, would have been able to say, okay, cool. Well, let's liquidate the farm. I'm a large shareholder. I'm going to get paid out something, and I could have gone. I would have saved myself a couple of million already in the costs it's cost me by not getting an income, by having to pay towards the legal fees. It would have been the easiest thing and the best thing for me to do if I wasn't as straight as I am in the way of that I don't bend for bullies and narcissists.
Okay, well, in the interest of saving time, how did that court case end up? What was the judgment handed down at the end of the day?
Okay, so the first court case we went into, the legal representation we had was actually quite shocking. I didn't think it was going to be that bad. But Brian got away with his lying, saying that he hadn't approved the MOI to be changed and shareholding to be changed and et cetera. And that was all on a technicality because he had actually sent the documentation away to be changed. But it was all on a technicality that his lawyer said, well, there has to be a special resolution done for that, and there wasn't a special resolution.
Okay.
So the court then reversed that MOI change, which is not a biggie. All it did was it made a couple of the directors that we put on as directors no longer directors because as the MOI hadn't been changed, you couldn't have appointed them the way we did. But if the MOI was changed, it wasn't an issue. So then that reverted back to that and the fact that then any shareholding after 2021 was now no longer valid, but everything prior was. And the funny thing is the guys who are on the farm here who joined Dalton believing that he was right and chased us down this road, they're the ones who came in afterwards and ended up not having shares anyway. So, so he won that first part of the case in that regard. And then the court then said, well, for the loan and or any liquidation, you've got to come back to court on the next thing and show why the company shouldn't be liquidated.
Okay,
which we did.
I thought that was actually a separate court case, but it's all actually one case at the end of the day.
It's all one case. It's all kind of one case, yes.
Okay,
and the two different judges. So the first one was Judge Henny, and the second one we went with Judge Mia. And in the Judge Mia case, we took what we call the interveners, which is the shareholders that had a stake in the company. Because in the first case, Brian made it sound like, well, him and I are the only shareholders. But meantime, he had signed shareholders agreements prior to February 2021. And so those shareholders got involved as well. We then, in the second court case, could prove that there wasn't a loan. And in fact, it didn't really even go in that route. You know, the most disgusting thing was that because they could see the auditors had gone down the road and understood that they could prove that there isn't a loan.
Yes.
They then, Brian and his team and the cooks in their crowd decided, well, they're going to then liquidate the farm under the auspices that the farm isn't legal or the company isn't legal because it's selling shares and getting people on agricultural zoned land.
Yes.
Okay. Now there's a big difference between agriculture, well, shares in a company, and whether you want to be on agricultural zoned land, that's a separate ballgame. But the scenario was that they were going so far and trying to be so dirty to try liquidate the company under that auspices, because now they couldn't do the loan. They were trying to do anything in their ability to liquidate the company so that he could take his money and run, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, this
So
was
yeah.
this was a recording I did just before the second court case happened, and although you had shown me the affidavits and the documentation, obviously I did the recording before the court case, so it was all sub judice, and I couldn't make anything public that was in those things. But I found it very strange that in that court case, he didn't even mention the loan. He just abandoned it. He didn't argue it. He just abandoned it, didn't mention it at all. Now, I thought to myself, well, what else is there to argue over? And then he came up with all of this business with the agricultural zoning and all of that, selling shares on agricultural land and all of that.
Yeah. Well, shares is not on agricultural land. Shares is in the company. The company owns the land. Now, with and you can go down this road and debate that on legalities and whether it should be a share block or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're falling back as we started the whole thing under Article 235 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And under Article 235 of the Constitution, we have the right to self-determination. That means we're allowed to do our own affairs, we're allowed to have our own economy, we're allowed to do a whole lot of things that you can go read up on self-determination. And self-determination under Article 235 of the Constitution, and the Constitution being the highest law in the land, nothing else underneath it trumps it. So it doesn't matter if you've got an act that is going to be against the Constitution.
Yeah, the Constitution supersedes everything.
Correct. So hence why we did what we did, and why we've moved on, and why people come in here is because we are creating that self-determination where we're able to live the dream, get away from the violence and the anarchy and the BEE and everything else, and create ourselves a utopia to what we want to do, and not be influenced by the color of your skin or whatever the scenario may be. It's we creators, we producers, we like creating and building. We don't like sitting and getting things torn down around us. It's not what we are. So it's great here. It really is. It's a beautiful environment. It's peaceful. We really are safe. We far enough away from town that we don't have any issues. We're close enough to town to pop in and get bread and milk if we wanted to. So it's a really an ideal place to be. We've got a game farm on the one side with eland and springbuck and ostriches and all those type of things, and on the other side we've got the rest of the 800 hectares of farmland to which we can do farming, and we do small scale farming because that's what we are for. Self-sustainability is key for the next short space of time.
Sure. Let's get back to the court case. So Brian eventually basically lost that case. He lost the liquidation appeal, or not appeal, but the request to liquidate the farm on the basis of the agricultural land, and he lost that. So he must have been pretty knocked about that. And what does he go and do? He goes and appeals the hearing or the judgment.
Yeah.
Or he applied.
So
he applied for leave to appeal.
Yes, correct. So he lost the court case with costs. So he had to pay for our costs, and because we brought interveners in, that's separate attorneys, separate advocates. So he had double that he's going to have to pay for all those legal costs. And then he went to appeal it, and they turned down his appeal with costs, so that cost him as well. So it cost him our legal team's cost and his legal team's cost as well.
That was going to be my next question. Do you think he will ever be able to pay it?
Okay, so well, let's get into the scenario of where did he get the funds to fight this thing in the first place, and he shut down PayApp in December 2021.
Yeah.
And he's got what we estimate and what we know of people is 6 million rand plus, of which he's got 1 million rand of mine stuck in there. And so has he used those funds that he so-called froze
Yeah.
to fight his court case and to build his house and et cetera, et cetera. Now, that is with the court, with the Hawks at the moment.
Okay.
And I've never seen anything take so long in all my life. But hopefully they'll come through soon and then deal with it and take it to court and get that dealt with. So,
Okay.
but it's a painful process waiting.
Absolutely, absolutely. But during all of these court cases, there was a fair amount, or Brian was intimidating the people on the farm. I know this because even though I don't live on the farm, I received a juicy little email from him basically threatening me with, in his own words, consequences for basically siding with the enemy, because at that stage I had interviewed you once or twice. So I suppose he saw that as me siding with the enemy. So what did the intimidation look like on the farm? I mean, what form did it take?
Yeah, look, I mean, he's a proper bully and a narcissist. I mean, he went to individuals here who didn't support him, or the crowd of individuals that support him. And even he threatened at least 2 people that he's going to pull their houses down plank by plank when he wins the case. So and then the bully tactics between him and his cohorts started off by getting 12 protection orders put in against me.
12.
At the police, 12. Well, interim. So you still had to wait for the court case, and that took 1.5 years. And then they dropped them all. So he used it as a political tool in the course to say, well, Rodney's obviously such a big threat that we even had to get protection orders, but none of them actually even put for a protection order case. So they delayed it, postponed it to use it as a tool. But those are the bullying tactics and what these guys do. More than once or twice, we've had a whole bunch of cops over here with them thinking we're going to go tear down people's houses, because these guys are brilliant at playing the victim, and making everybody else look like this tyrannical individual. I mean, the cops that don't even pay attention anymore. Well, one thing I've learned is I know how to go through courts, and I know how to deal with the police, because I tell you what, for the last couple of years, I spent more time there than in my home sometimes. So
Sure.
It's been interesting.
But you mentioned just now that there was some people on the farm, or they were on the farm, I take it they're still there, that were actually supporters of Brian. What was life like, I suppose still like, living with these people now who are supporting the enemy basically, and they've all been proven wrong now? What's life like living with these people living amongst you?
Yeah, it's difficult. It really is. But I'm sure we're going to sort it out in the next short while. The most amazing thing is how these individuals turned. Firstly, they hated Brian, and Brian hated them, and I was like on the sideline. And you can speak to the guys who've been living here the longest, and they'll tell you the whole stories. And, these guys were all happy. I mean, in September 2021, we were still having this nice big open day over here. We had all, once again, made sure that we had a unanimous vote for self-determination. And 3 weeks later, these guys had joined Brian and then decided to hold illegal shareholder meetings. Or fraudulent, whichever way you want to put it, and try oust me as a director. So he had promised them, obviously, that if they support him, he would then give them the directorships, and they would be able to run the company and the farm and et cetera, which is what these people actually thought they had in the first place, and that's where the clash comes in, is because they bought one share in a company. They believe they come in and they own the company.
Yeah.
It's like buying one share in Vodacom, and then you're going to go in, you're going to tell the CEO and the other guys over there, listen, you can't do this, you can't do that. I own one share. Seriously, they got
Yes.
no
Yes.
understanding of the concept of business and how the whole thing works. And so
Sure.
they run off on false narratives and their own theories in their heads and half truths. They come up with, I'll give you some examples. They come up with oh yeah, but Rodney took out 200,000 rand out of the company, but he says he doesn't earn a salary and etc. etc. But they don't understand that if I put in almost double that for legal fees to protect the company, and the company has some funds and I want to take some funds out, there's no issue with that. It's not I'm earning a salary. I'm taking back money that I paid in. It's a loan.
Yes.
So, but they take that and we've got the evidence and the proof, and they go convince people. They are so good at convincing people of half-truths that I promise you, you go sit there with them for a half an hour, coffee and a couple of drinks, you walk out there believing that they're right and everybody else is wrong. They're that good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got to the stage now where, the cases are over. So everything they say now, say bring your auditors. If you're not going to
Yes.
bring your auditors because they don't want to believe our auditors, no.
Yeah.
So, that's those auditors were wrong. So then bring your auditors. Instead of
Sure.
spending money playing with the investigator, Wolf, and all these guys, pay some auditors, get them in. Let's go through the whole financial system and the books and what we've done, and then
Yes.
show me where your problem is, because they
Sure.
can't.
Sure. Okay. I see Zoom is telling me we've got 9 minutes left. But anyway,
Okay.
let's get to the future now. Tell me a little bit about your plans quickly for the farm, and is it now possible once again for people to buy plots and build? Because I know it was all put on hold while all these legal proceedings were happening.
Yeah, look, it's we're still having some interesting times with Article 235 and that. But yes, what we're doing right to use agreements where people can come in, and as we did before, when we get the right to self-determination and or we get independence as an independent Cape, well, then you get full title deed, and that's in the agreement that we do with the individuals. So it's all about coming in, getting yourself established already, so that when the poop does hit the fan, that you aren't sitting now trying to run with your caravan and or whatever else, your
Yes.
possessions, to try then go find a place to live. And
Sure.
so the
Absolutely.
whole idea was to set up SanDoring ready for that time and live the life, and
Yeah.
if we can create our own economy. Hence why we used pay up at that stage, is because you want to get away from the banking system, and I'm really going to still go away from the banking system. We're actually looking at doing a Zuidland now, and I'll do it differently than pay up, even though pay up was a good system and just a corrupt individual. But we want to obviously use gold and silver
Yes.
as our backing, so that we don't have to use the banking system currently, because we all know where it's going. We can see every day. I mean, these guys are bugging you about
Absolutely.
this tax and FICA and this, and it's all about controlling you
Yes.
at some stage, and you won't be able to go buy anything without their say-so. So we've got to get away from that. We've got to get ourselves back into gold and silver as our backing. And we're looking at various options in that, but we can have a separate video for that, because I think it'll be a little bit too long than 9 minutes.
Well, the last item on my list is actually not a question. It's more of an announcement, and I'm going to leave you to make that announcement. I believe that Zuidland has now thrown its weight behind a certain movement that is gaining traction very fast at the moment. Tell us a little bit more about this. I think it's a very exciting development.
Yeah, look, I've been watching the videos with UCS, United Cape States, and with Richard Buerta, the advocate who really knows a lot about self-determination, and the accords that were signed and etc. And I think those are the important things that most people don't know. And
Yes.
that's why we started what we did 5 years ago already, because we knew of the accords, we knew that it was in the Constitution, we knew for anybody to try and stop us, you've got to go through the constitutional courts, not through any other means.
Yes.
So UCS is a body that's obviously getting everybody together in order to force a referendum and do secession and independence for the whole of the Cape. And I think that Zuidland, with its members and that, was a good thing to back them, because once again, if they win, we win. We
Absolutely.
continue here in our own Zuidland state, of which we've already earmarked the territory. And if they get states, then we've got ourselves our own state anyway, with our culture group that we've designed for our self-determination. And so, that works for us in all ways. So it was the best thing to do. And I think everybody needs to get up and go put their vote behind UCS.
Absolutely. On a personal level, I think that is our only hope at the moment, because there are a few other hopefuls, but all of them, to get any traction and to get anywhere, is going to take years. And we simply don't have that time. That's my opinion. We just don't have the time.
No, absolutely. And I think, if we do get to elections and all that kind of stuff, and, UCS, is not a political party, so then go vote for Cape Independence Party, who's also going for independence,
Yes. Yeah.
And people who say, well, you're going to diminish the DA. Well, no, you don't. All you do is you strengthen another party that'll have to create an alliance with the DA, and it would stay the same, except you've got somebody who's now with the DA who's actually fighting for independence, where the DA doesn't seem to be wanting to, which is very strange.
No. They will never support the drive for independence. Never.
Yeah, and that's a problem, you see. So if we want to change things, we can't keep doing the same thing and expect something to change.
Correct.
So you can't keep voting DA and then think something's going to change. So you got to do something different. And
Yeah.
so my suggestion would be, if you're going to vote Cape Party.
All right. That's interesting. Well, we've got 3 minutes and 25 seconds left of this recording. Rodney, thank you very much. I know I didn't have a lot of questions for you, but I think you've answered, you've given a good answer, and people should be able to tell what's happening on the farm right now, and people must know that it's business as usual, and you want them to come and get a plot and put up a house, come and live on the farm.
Sure, we're growing. We're busy building on, and we're adding more infrastructure. So right now we're moving forward, absolutely.
Ah, that sounds good. I'll tell you something, if I could find a way to earn a living, I'd be on the farm tomorrow. I am tired of the East Rand.
You know what? The guys who move here now and soon, they're the one who get the opportunities. There must be about 2,000 people moved into Veldrift and Dwarsgasbos in the last couple of years. It's boomed because of the peaceful environment, the right demographics, and all kinds of stuff. So it is the right place to be.
Okay. Well, anyway, Rodney, thank you very much for your time. I will edit this and get it up as soon as possible, as well as some of your nice images of the farm.
Yeah, I'll send you some more.
Fantastic. Rodney, thank you very much. I say thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Cheers, Bye-bye.
Thanks. Good night, Dean.